Hello, Hassan. Hello, Jean Marc. It is May 19th, 2026, and it is 9:54 a.m. here. All right, hello everybody. So I'm here. Let the questions begin. You should be self-studying English. And when you're not self-studying English, you can come here and ask me your questions. So if you are serious about learning, then you should be studying and learning on your own, and then you should have questions. Maybe you don't understand something or you have trouble with something. That's what you should come here and ask me about. Hello, Rakan. Hello, Will and Giovanni. Neymar will be in the United States. Well, good for Neymar. Hello, Flavia. I'm not interested in World Cups. I'm not interested in World Bowls. I'm not interested in World Plates. I'm not interested in World, yeah. Music I like. Yeah, music is good. Food I like. Food is good. Travel I like. Travel is good. Learning I like. Learning is good. Reading I like. Reading is good. History I like. History is good. Etymology, that's history. But yeah. You know, yesterday I was thinking about yesterday many people were asking me about my preferences and the things that I like. And I was trying to tell people that the things I like are very uncommon. They're not they're I mean that the things I like most people don't like. All right? And it got me thinking about how you should think about your own likes and dislikes, and you should think about bravery, and you should consider whether bravery is important to you. Because if bravery is important to you, then that means that you should have some things that you like that nobody else seems to like, right? Like you like it, but nobody else does. If everything that you like is like approved by the public, then that sounds like you're not very brave to me. That sounds like you only like something if everybody else likes it. That's not brave, right? So that's why I'm saying you should consider the things that you like and popularity, because popularity is not always a good sign of something being worth following or worth paying attention to. And sometimes you should consider if everything I like is because of what other people like, then who am I? Do I have any feelings of my own? Am I allowed to feel anything without the approval of everybody else? You know? So Will, yeah, I'm not a sportsman anymore. Not at this point in my life. When I was a younger man, it amused me a little bit, but I was never that much into sports. Okay? But at this point in my life, yeah, I don't have a lot of time for that. We were talking about this yesterday too, and the way I look at my brain is I consider my mind to be like real estate, and you only have so much real estate up here, right? Like the capacity that you have for knowledge is limited. You can't know everything, right? So that means you have to consider which property do you invest in? Is this property worth investing in or not? You know? So that's why I have eliminated sports from my real estate, because I don't think sports is a good investment. It's not a good investment of my mental capacity for me. For me at this point in my life. Okay? I'm not saying it's not good for anybody anywhere. That's up to you. Okay? But for me, at this point, I can't invest in that. Brazilians are crazy because Neymar is going to play in the World Cup. I prefer basketball. It's so unfair the amount of money the best athletes receive. People work hard to win so much less. Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. But, and, you know, I understand, you know, the World Cup is really important to a lot of people, and it's coming to America now, and so a lot of people are very excited about that. I'm just not one of them. Okay, let's see what else. Best Brazilian football player ever? Even better than Pele, really? When I grew up, it was all about Pele. To what extent does etymology influence the way words are used in modern English, especially when their meanings have changed over time? Okay, how do I answer this? To what extent does etymology influence the way words are used in modern English? That's kind of hard to answer. It doesn't necessarily affect the way that they're used now, but it does affect the way that they exist now. Like, it's so what I mean is, for example, the spelling. Many words, the spelling has changed a lot over time, and you can see that change. So, for example, like some words that have a silent B in them, right? For example, like the word doubt and the word debt, right? Why do we have that silent B in there? It's, well, because of etymology. The long story is because at one point the B was not in those words. So the word subtle didn't have a B and it was pronounced that way. And the word debt didn't have a B and it was pronounced that way. So why did they add the B and change the way it looks? It's because, well, the English didn't want it to look French, and the French pronunciation had no B. So they decided, because they didn't like the French, that they would change the spelling to the Latin spelling. So, like the word subtle comes from the Latin word subtilis, but so the T used to be there, but then it disappeared over time. Now they put it back again, right? So that affects the spelling and the pronunciation, right? So yeah, etymology can help you understand the meaning and how it's changed over time. It can help you understand the spelling and how that's changed over time. It can help you understand the pronunciation and how that's changed over time. Yeah. Okay? AI is wild, but it's low-key scary because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. Yeah, but to be honest with you, the economics of the world right now are not low-key scary, they're high-key scary. The economics of the world are eating people alive left and right. Business is taking no prisoners. And it has been that way for many years. So, to be honest with you, I think it's about time business had a little bit of something to worry about. And AI is going to change business in this way. And if it destroys it in certain ways, I'm okay with that because that's the way things go. No system can last forever without being changed. That's why humans exist. Adaptation. Adaptation is key to any living thing or living idea. And ideas, in order for an idea to be living, it must adapt or change. If it never changes, it's not alive. It's dead. So, I'm okay with a bit of a shake-up. The world needs a shake-up. Did humans believe myths and legends for thousands of years? Yes. So, what is mythology and what is history? History is, now we say, it's the things that we've written down. But before we wrote things down, history was stories. That's exactly why the word story is in the word history. Because in order for you to remember the stories of your people, if you didn't write them down, then you had to tell them again and again and again. So, every culture around the world, you would sit around the fire and tell stories. Now, some of these stories were true. They were about family or relationships or, battles or war with different tribes. But then some of the story, sometimes they would add pieces to it that would be mythological, meaning attributed somehow to the gods or fate or destiny or something beyond the real world. Okay? So mythology has played an important role in helping people tell stories, in helping people learn important lessons, and in helping people understand the world around them the best they can, right? So, for example, a long time ago, every map, if you looked at maps, they all had pictures of like sea monsters, monsters in the ocean. You would see a little picture of a little sea monster somewhere in the ocean. Why did they believe that there were giant sea monsters in the ocean? Well, because many, many boats would go out but not come back. And the storms would be big. And human imagination is big. So when you put those things together, you come up with the idea that, oh, well, this boat, maybe it wasn't the storm, maybe it was the Kraken. The Kraken is a great sea creature from the deep that would come up and swallow boats. Okay, so mythology plays a role in telling stories. It plays a role in helping understand the world around you. It plays a role in culturally framing things for your culture, right? So it plays, you know what it's like? I'll tell you what it's like. Why do people still watch the TV show Friends? Friends has been on for many, many years, and everybody's seen it many, many, many times, but they still play it. Why? Because it's interesting? Okay, maybe. But it's interesting because it tells a story. There are lessons that you can learn if you watch the show. That's the point, right? This lesson in this episode, what's the point here? Oh, Joey and Chandler are fighting over the same girl, right? And so it's about friendship and about jealousy and about, envy and these types of things, right? So when you watch that show again and again, it makes you review these lessons again and again. That's exactly what mythology does. When they would tell the stories of mythology again and again, those lessons are in the mythology and they would learn them again and again. All right, so just like we watch TV shows again and again and we learn those lessons, right? Those lessons become part of the culture, right? They determine, they tell you what behavior is okay and what behavior is not okay. That's mythology. All right, so TV shows today and movies play the role that mythology did. Same way. Their imagination that helps you understand the world and helps you learn lessons, and it's also mixed with part history, part reality, right? Okay. Popularity is only a thing in high school and college. After that, it's completely irrelevant. Well, I wish that were true, but that might be true for you. But you know a lot of people who that's not true for. I mean, come on. There are so many, many adults who still care about being popular and being liked, and they care about what people think about them in this very unhealthy way, right? What's the pronunciation of watches, watch, 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 and wash, wash, wash. So Andy, wash, and watch. Okay? How can you train your brain to think in English? Did you read my article about that, Nadia? I have an article that I wrote about that. I wrote an article about how to think in English. I'm not sure if you read it. You are welcome. Thank you. Where is that article? I will give it to you. If you go here, one moment, I'll just give you the article. Here it is. Right there. Fluency is a myth. The complete guide to thinking in English. Okay? What are some fixes for what? Fixes for that, the pronunciation of those two words? Okay, so the what I would say, Andy, is you need to find some tongue twisters that practice the CH and some tongue twisters that practice the SH, right? So let me see if I can help you with that. Here's one. No, no, no. Here, look at this, everybody. Here's a good page. This is a game on Bamboozle, or a page on Bamboozle. Take a look here. Cheerful children in the chorus chanted charming chants. Cheerful children in the chorus chanted charming chants. Anna's aching arm always aches after awkward acrobatics. Silly Sam's stomach suffered from spicy sauce and sour soup. Clever characters create chaotic conversations in classic comedies. Tim's tricky technology tricks take 10 tries to troubleshoot. Right? So these are tongue twisters. These are ways for you to practice better pronunciation because these are difficult. Okay, so you have to overpronounce these. And that forces you to overpronounce your English, and that fixes your pronunciation. Okay, so there is right there, that's one way to do it. Okay, so what you can do is, Andy, look up some CH tongue twisters and look up some SH tongue twisters. Okay, and you can even ask ChatGPT to make one. Here, I'll do that for you now. Let's see. Make a tongue twister for SH and CH words. Oh, this one's not too bad. Selfish chefs choose to chop cheap cheese on shabby ships. Selfish chefs choose to chop cheap cheese on shabby ships. Okay? How can you be confident around smart people? Why aren't you confident around smart people? Why do you feel you need to be confident around smart people? So when you say you don't feel confident around smart people, then yeah, you feel like you're being intimidated. Okay, I've been there. Okay, there are many, many, many people that intellectually intimidate me. Many, many. All right? That's not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. If you feel intimidated occasionally, at least it means that you have some humility. But intimidation do you ever think about why you feel intimidated? I mean, why do you, let's ask this. Do you think they are trying to intimidate you? Do you think they are trying to intimidate you? That matters. Part of the question is, are they trying to do it to you deliberately? Or maybe they are not trying to intimidate you at all, but your feelings of intimidation are only from you. Okay, so you said they're not intentionally trying to be like that. Okay, then I'll tell you how to solve this problem. You be honest with them and tell them that you're intimidated. That's how you solve that problem. If they are not trying to intimidate you on purpose, if you don't think they're doing it on purpose, then the best way to solve that problem is very easy. Just tell them, hey, I would love to be a part of your conversations, but I have to be honest with you. I often feel very intimidated when I'm around you guys because you guys are always talking about such intelligent things, and I don't feel like I can participate on the same level that you do, right? Try to tell them. Try to just tell them, hey, I would love to talk with you, but I always feel like I can't because I feel intimidated. Okay? Because if they're not trying to intimidate you, when you tell them you feel intimidated, probably they will try to do something to welcome you in so that you don't feel that sense of intimidation. They'll invite you into the conversation more. They'll explain things to you more. They'll ask you if you understand more. They'll help you. They'll create an environment that feels like it's okay to be there. All right? If you tell them, then that can happen. But there are some times when people are trying to intimidate you deliberately. And in that case, then you do need to develop a sense of internal confidence so that you can walk through their feelings of intimidation, not feeling intimidated. Okay, so you can go through their bad feelings, but you'll be okay. All right? And I think the other thing I would say is ask good questions. Good questions show that you're curious. Good questions show that you want to be a part of the conversation and that you want to understand. So don't be afraid to ask a good question. Okay? Okay, let's see. Where does the word fee come from? What's the original meaning? The word fee means a payment now, but the word fee originally comes from an old, I think it was Old English. I think it's Old English, not Germanic. It's an Old English word that meant cattle. It meant cows, because that was the most common way for for people in England to trade large amounts of money. Cows were very valuable, right? Being a farmer, for poor people, that was the way to make money. It was the most common way to make money. There were some merchants, people who would sell things in a market, but there were very few. That was a very specialized thing. The majority of people worked on farmland that they did not own. The land was owned by the king, and you just worked and lived on the land. So the word fee comes from the word, I think it was F-E-O-H. I can't remember how to pronounce that. Tho or some fe. It's a weird, an Old English word. It's not a word anymore, but it's a word that meant cattle or animals or livestock, like things that you could sell or trade for money, right? So that's where the word fee comes from. You've learned that ain't means aren't, but you've only seen it in Tom and Jerry. So yeah, the word ain't is not correct English. It's improper English. But it was colloquially popular a long time ago. So around the time of Tom and Jerry, it was more popular. There was a famous jazz song, a very, very famous jazz song, that says, "It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing." And that was a super popular song. I think that was, let me see, what year was that? Probably the 30s? "1931, first recorded in 1932 by Duke Ellington. Yeah, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-ah, 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 do-ah." Right? But ain't is not a proper word, right? So when I was a boy, you know, if I said, "I ain't gonna do that," then my mom would, don't say ain't. Say aren't. I'm not. I am not. We aren't. Okay? So it's definitely not correct, and I wouldn't recommend using it. Definitely not as a non-native, right? If you use the word ain't as a non-native, you better use it exactly correctly, because if you don't, it will be weird. Okay? What makes a question a good question? Well, I have an article for that too. What makes a question a good question is, one, is it thoughtful? And is it, or is it lazy? Is it thoughtful or is it lazy? So a lazy question is a question like, how can I learn English? That's a lazy question. Come on. They make books about how to learn English. They make entire courses about how to learn English. But you come and ask a question like, how can I learn English? Like somebody can tell you that? Right? So that's one thing. Sometimes if the question is too big, I remember when I was probably 16, I asked my teacher a question about drums, and he said, "Mark, that's not a good question. If I have to write a book about it, it's not a good question." That's what he said. So there are some questions that are so big that I would have to write a book to answer that question. So that's not a good question. It's too big. So a good question is one that you've thought about, right? You think about, you have a problem, right? You don't understand present perfect tense. You don't understand past, perfect tense, whatever. So you think about it and you say, well, what's the difference? I don't understand the difference between this one and this one. Now that's a good question. That's a question I can explain. That's a question I can tell you the answer to. Okay? But there are some questions that are either lazy or not thoughtful. So your questions are something that you should try to answer first. Any question you ask me, did you ask yourself that question first? So, when you ask me, how do you learn English? Did you ask yourself that question? Did you try to answer it? How should I learn English? Right? So, here is the article that I wrote about how to ask good questions. Impress me with your questions. Okay, let's see. Is studying grammar important for speaking? It depends on what kind of speaking you're doing. If you're just speaking to your friends when you're playing video games, then no, it's not important. But if you're speaking to your professor in your graduate program about your paper or your thesis, then yes, grammar is very important. So grammar is important, but it depends on what kind of language you're using at that time. Are you using common, casual language that's not important, right? You're just talking to your friend at the bar, or you're just talking to your neighbor at the store. Okay, grammar is not super important in that situation, okay? But if you're at work, it's probably important. If you are taking a test like the IELTS test, it's important, right? So it's important. And here's what I'll tell you. I don't want you to worry about grammar, but I do want you to work on your grammar. So I tell people that grammar is just like your kitchen table. In your kitchen, maybe you have a table and you eat there sometimes. And when you eat there, after you eat, you have to clean the table, right? And you're never finished cleaning the table, right? You have to clean it again the next day, and you clean it again the next day, and you clean it again the next day, right? That's grammar. Grammar is just the kitchen table that you clean a little bit every day to make it better, all right? And I'll say this, grammar is the glue of language. So, you can speak without good grammar, and people might understand you, but the words won't have any power. The words will feel very weak, okay? But if you have perfect grammar, then the grammar that you're using is like glue, and it makes your words more powerful. It's like magic. All right? So the reason why you listen to me is because the way I use my words is powerful. That's the grammar. If I didn't use good grammar, you wouldn't understand me and you wouldn't listen as much. Okay? When we watch a good speaker, I temporarily... So, Mona Lisa. You're saying when you see somebody who speaks really well, you temporarily feel really motivated, but then when you actually go to try, you feel exhausted. Well, that's part of learning, Mona Lisa. And this has happened to me many, many times through my life. Mona Lisa, as a drummer, I often go to see other drummers perform, masters of drumming. And when I see them perform, there is a feeling of inspiration, like, oh my God, they're so good. I want to do that too. I want to be like that. I want to work on it so I can be like them. I want to be just like them. I want to play like them. I want to be like them. So you have to work on it. And you should feel frustrated trying to do it. You should get tired. You should feel exhausted sometimes, because that's what effort does. if you want something, you have to work for it. Okay? The things that we value because they're hard. They're not easy. So you have to struggle. If there's no struggle, then you're not probably learning. That's something that I learned when I was about 16 or 17. I think I was about 17. Before the age of 17, I really didn't understand that to learn well, you must struggle. If you're not struggling, then you're not really learning, because you're doing something that's below your ability. Struggling means you're near your level or you're pushing above your level. That means you're growing. Okay? But if you're not pushing yourself and you're not struggling, then you're not growing. Okay? So when you feel tired, you should feel proud that you feel tired, because that's part of the work, right? It's like when you climb up the mountain and you take a break and now you look down to see how far you've come and you go, wow, look how far I've come. I still have to go a long way up, but wow, look down there. It's so far down. I've really come far, right? So, but maybe you need to take a rest before you go further. Okay? You're overwhelmed by the sheer variety of language tools available today. They often distract me. That can happen. Yeah, you need to have a little discipline, and you have to think about choosing your tools carefully. And I want you to think about it just like a toolbox. A toolbox should not have a million tools in it. No, a toolbox should have the 20 or 30 most useful tools. Okay, so in your toolbox, you don't need every tool, but you do need the 20 or 30 most useful ones. All right? In my opinion, do traditional study methods provide better focus? Not necessarily. I think many traditional study methods, I think, are flawed. I think that there are many problems with a lot of traditional study methods. I mean, one of the most traditional study methods is memorization, and I think memorization is one of the worst ways to learn. So, yeah. So I'm telling you that we need to speak more to improve our grammar. No, I'm telling you that if you want to improve your grammar, you have to work on your grammar. And when you're speaking, if you make a mistake, then learn from that mistake. Don't try to avoid mistakes. That's a big problem that many students have. Many students, they avoid mistakes. I don't want you to avoid mistakes. I want you to make mistakes. But I want you to learn from every mistake that you make. So anytime you make a mistake, then you need to think about it and learn from it. All right? That's the only problem with mistakes, is if you don't take the time to learn from them. Okay? Wow, Celine, that's a big compliment. Thank you. You're too nice. I'm just a drummer. If I ask a native speaker a question without using proper grammar, will their answers be different compared to when I use correct grammar? That depends. There are some times when, if your grammar is incorrect, then maybe the question won't be asked correctly. Maybe they will misunderstand you if your grammar is not correct. Okay, so their answer could be different. If there's something about your grammar that's unclear, that now they give an unclear answer because of that. Okay? You can't distinguish between a rite, a ritual, a custom, and a tradition. They are very similar. In some cases, they are the same. customs and traditions, those are pretty similar. Okay, so if I say, what are the customs of your culture? I could also say, what are the traditions of your culture? And those two words are really, really similar. Okay, the customs and traditions of your culture are very similar. Okay, rite and ritual, those are more specific. A rite or a ritual is a specific act that's done that's sometimes a custom or tradition. Like, but rites and rituals are often religious. Okay? As a matter of fact, let me check something. One moment. Right. So the word rite, R-I-T-E, that word, it is related to the word ritual, and it means a religious act or ceremony. Okay, so the words rite and ritual, those are usually specific acts that are religious acts. Some sort of a religious performance or a religious celebration or religious observance. Okay? Jasna, I can give you a great book to get started with for grammar. There is a book online that's free, if I can find it. Right here. This is my favorite grammar book. Copy that link and paste it into your browser and open it, and it will work. Okay? A blast from the past. That's just what we say when we see something that's really old that we grew up with, right? So maybe I see a TV show or a cartoon that I watched when I was a boy, and I haven't seen it in a long time. So I'll see it and I'll go like, wow, that's a blast from the past. It's like an explosion from the past. Okay, like, wow, I remember that thing. Okay, a blast from the past. It's kind of like long time no see, but it's about a thing that you haven't seen in a long time. Okay? Cold turkey. Yeah, cold turkey and cold shoulder are two funny terms. So cold turkey means to do something without any preparation or without any system or plan. Okay? And this word, the cold turkey, actually comes from drugs. It comes from being addicted to things. And when you're addicted to something like, for example, cigarettes, right? People try to quit smoking cigarettes, and it's very, very difficult. And many times they'll use different drugs, or they'll use some kind of a plan, or they'll use a patch or something. But some people, they will quit with no help. They quit with no help at all, right? They just say, tomorrow, I'm not going to smoke at all. No more. That is called cold turkey. You're quitting, completely stopping with no plan, no preparation, no anything. You're just stopping. That's called to quit cold turkey. Okay, quitting cold turkey is that. And then there's the term cold shoulder. To give someone the cold shoulder means to treat them badly, like you don't like them. You're trying to show them that you don't like them. So maybe when they talk to you, you're kind of rude to them. Like, okay, whatever you want. Fine. that's giving them the cold shoulder. And this term actually comes from a long time ago. The king, sometimes maybe the king would invite you to eat with him, right? So you come to the king's table and you sit at the king's table and he says, oh, you sit here. You sit down here. And so you sit in your seat and then you notice that in front of you is one bowl that has meat in it, but it's the shoulder meat, and this is cold. It has been sitting out for a long time. Shoulder meat is not the good meat. It's very tough shoulder meat, all right? And if it's cold and it's the tough meat, it's not good, that means this is the way the king would show who they don't like. They would sit you in front of the bowl that has the cold shoulder. Okay? Yeah, they were trying to show that they don't like you, so they would sit you in front of the bad dish. Wow, there's almost nobody here today. That's funny. Only 34 people. That's weird. I wonder why so few. Am I getting that boring? But you think it's 57. 57 is how many people have come in and left in the total time. But currently, in my room right now, there are 35 people in the room. $231? Well, that's not what I see. I see 36. That's it. You don't see the book link. What do you mean? That's the book link. You have to copy it and paste it. But it should work, Waleed. I'm looking at it. Marco, I lost all the Titanic fans. I know. Yeah. Look, I tried to tell you guys, I am weird, and I know that. So when you ask me about me, then yeah, there are going to be many things that I say that are different. Okay? Yeah, I don't want to see the Titanic movie. We're expecting a song today. You mean to play a song? Did I not do that last time? Maybe I did. I don't remember. You need vocabulary. Okay, like you need a book for vocabulary? There are many, many, many places for vocabulary. Malika, everybody here. Wait a minute. This is my website. Look here. I'm going to share my screen and show it to you. This is my website right here. Okay? And on my website, you can do many things. You can buy lessons from me. If you want to pay me to teach you, you can do that. You can also go up here to my blog, where you can find my blog and read my articles. But Malika, you can also go here to resources. And if you click on resources, look, it says Teacher Mark's Top English Resources. Below, I have gathered together all the best English study and practice resources I could find from all over the internet just for my subscribers. So if you want to practice reading, writing, listening, speaking, IELTS or TOEFL, grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation, then go here. So go here to vocabulary, and this here, thesaurus.com, that's a great place for vocabulary. Etymonline.com is a great place for vocabulary. Wyzant, language guide, all of these are great for vocabulary. Okay, and this is all on my website. Did I publish a book? No, not yet. I'm working on one. I'm writing one now, but I'm very, very slow. What does the term "pardon my French" mean? That's a funny term. It's what we say. Maybe I'll say a bad word, right? I'll say a curse word, and then I'll say, "Pardon my French," you know, or I'll say, "Pardon my French, but," and then I'll say a curse word. So where does that come from? Actually, I don't know. Let me see, where does that come from? I have an idea, but I'm gonna check. Ah, right. So it was a literal thing that 19th century people would say in Britain. Okay, so in British history, the British and the French often fought through for hundreds of years. The British would fight back and forth with the French. Okay? So sometimes when the French would win, the French would control England. And when they controlled England, French was the language of the rich people. So English was the language of the poor people, and French was the language of the rich people. It was called Norman French at the time. Okay? And sometimes English people would try to use a French word, but they would use it improperly, or they wouldn't use it, they wouldn't pronounce it right, or they would say it the wrong way. So the term "pardon my French" began with people trying to use French words that they just really weren't familiar with. And when low-class people would use French, French was the high-class term or high-class language. So when the low-class people would use the high-class language, they would say, "Oh, pardon my French," like, "Forgive me because I'm a poor person, so I can't speak French like you can." Right? My French is poor French. You're the real rich people, so your French is great, right? So that's where it began. But then it became a euphemism for swearing. It's kind of complicated, but how do I explain this? Because of the fighting between England and France for so long, there's a lot of tension there. And sometimes English people will think that French things are low class, and French people will think that English things are low class. So the English began saying, "Pardon my French," in a way that was like making fun of the French people because of their French language. It's very hard to explain, but yes, we do use it still. It's still something you'll hear in movies. It's usually something we say right before we're going to say a curse word. Yeah, pardon my French, but beep. Okay? Okay, let's see. Am I going to sing American Pie? I don't sing. What do I think about studies on the 100 most commonly used sentences? I've never even considered such a thing. I'm sure there's some value in that. The 100 most commonly used sentences, fine. But I think, Celine, it would be more valuable if you tried to think about specific contexts, specific areas, right? So the 100 most commonly used sentences in the morning, or the 100 most commonly used sentences for introductions, or the 100 most commonly used sentences for debate, or whatever. But like, put something on it. Because if you just say the 100 most commonly used sentences, I don't know how valuable that really, really will be. Okay? You went through the Fry 1,000 sight words and knew all except ho and decimal. Are those two words really for kids? Yeah, the word hoe, H-O-E, is a word that means like a tool that we use in the garden. And yeah, kids will see that word because they see it in children's books about farming or, something like that, right? So they might learn that term. I learned that term when I was a kid for sure. And the term decimal is a little bit harder, but a decimal is something that's learned in early math, right? As soon as you learn what something that's less than a whole number is, then you need a decimal, right? So kids do learn those pretty early, okay? You hope I'm going to publish an autobiography? Well, no, I'll never publish an autobiography because I don't have anything really that interesting to say in my life. But, I mean, about the story of my life is not that, it's not that exciting. But I have ideas, I have things that I would like to say. It's just that I'm just very protective of my ideas, and because I'm protective of my ideas, I never feel they're finished, so I always keep working on them. So it's a problem of being a perfectionist. When you're a perfectionist, you never feel comfortable like things are finished. So you always want to keep working on them. But hopefully I'll get that done. Why French? The only reason why French is because the British and the French fought. And so the French and the British have been enemies for many, many years. Hundreds of years. Huh? Who did you fight with? What? I don't know what that means. Maybe relief is a French word. The word relief, I'm not sure if it's French. Let's find out. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Anglo-French relief. Relever. Yeah. To relieve. Yeah. Do the French also say pardon my English? I don't think so. I don't think it works the same way in reverse, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Thank you very much, Celine. Let's see. Would I like to come to Brazil? I would love to go to Brazil. I have always wanted to go to Brazil. My first interest in Brazil was Brazilian music because I did study bossa nova and samba a bit, and a few other Brazilian rhythms. There are so many amazing rhythms in Brazilian culture. I subscribe to a few Facebook pages with Brazilian drummers that they play these rhythms, and I love them. There are just so many of these awesome, cool rhythms. So Brazilian music, sure, absolutely. And I know that nobody listens to bossa nova anymore. It's like considered the old people music, and nobody listens to, samba unless it's like carnival or whatever. But I still love them. I don't care if it's popular. Remember me? I'm the guy who doesn't care about popularity. So I like bossa nova because it's beautiful. Okay, Jobim is some of the most beautiful music. If you want to hear romantic music, listen to some bossa nova. Oh my God, beautiful. Yeah, and then yeah, sure, Brazilian food. I would love to try more. I've gone to a Brazilian steakhouse. And that was delicious. Madam also, yeah, sure, yeah. Hello, Becca. Do I like tacos or nachos? I like both tacos and nachos. Do I work out? Alexander, I don't usually work out like at a gym, if you mean like that. But I have a life that requires me to do a good deal of yard work all the time. So I don't need to go to a gym because I have to do sweaty work all the time. Cutting grass and cutting trees and doing yard work and all that stuff, that's a lot of work. I have to go cut the grass in a little bit here, actually. So, Alexander, I've never been a big fan of gyms. I like the idea of working out. I like the idea of doing something that pushes your body. But I have always preferred to do something practical that pushes yourself. So, also, Alexander, there are not many fat drummers because drumming is a very physical instrument. So sometimes I practice drums for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and believe me, that's a good workout. That's a great workout. So between doing yard work and practicing drums, I usually get a good amount of exercise. Okay? I probably will start working out more, like actual working out, with equipment, but I'll probably just buy my own. I'm not a big fan of the idea of public working out. I don't know, that's weird to me. It seems very weird. I know it's been done since the Greeks, right? But to me, it's a very bizarre thing to exercise in a group. I think if you want to exercise, just exercise by yourself. It's not a group activity. Does the word obsessus actually come from obsedere? I think, do you mean the word obsess? To obsess? Obsess comes from the Latin term, uh, it might be that one. It means to sit across from someone. Yeah, it is. It's ob meaning across from and sedere meaning to sit. So, yeah, obsess comes from the word meaning to sit across from somebody, like you're sitting across from them and staring at them. That's what obsess means. Yeah. Can I give some examples about present perfect continuous? Sure, I can. Okay. All right. So present perfect continuous, right? Oh, wait, wrong one. Did you say continuous or simple? You said continuous. Oh. Those are for things that you just, well, they're things that are still going, right? Like, for example, I have been studying English for 3 years. I have been studying English for 3 years. So, in this case, we're talking about something that you're still doing in the present, right? But you also have completed something. That's the perfect part, is completed for 3 years. But you're not done. You're still doing it in the future. So that's the continuous part, right? Or she has been working at this company since 2020. Or she has been working at this company for 10 years. Okay? So that means she started 10 years ago, but she's still there and she's still going to be there. Okay? You're welcome, Omar. All right. Are there any people in the world that exist that I would like to take out? That's a funny question, Alexander. Yeah, there are a few, but I won't tell you who they are. But if you know me, you could guess pretty easily. I've heard that we should say you and I and not I and you. And that is I and you grammatically wrong? Yeah, I and you is grammatically wrong. It's supposed to be you and I. Yeah. It doesn't sound rude. It's just awkward. It just is not the common way. Okay? Hear it straight from the horse's mouth. That is an idiom that means that you got the information directly from someone. You didn't hear it from somebody else. You heard it from the actual person who said it originally, right? So the term straight from the horse's mouth is because a long time ago, if you want to buy a horse, then you look at the horse to see, is the horse healthy or not? And the easiest way to see if a horse is healthy or not is by looking at their teeth. So if someone wanted to buy a horse, they would go look at the horse's mouth. They would go look and see the teeth. So you looked yourself at the horse's mouth, so you know it's good. That means you got the information directly. You didn't get it from somebody else. They didn't say, oh yeah, I looked at it, the horse is fine. No, you looked at it. Okay, so straight from the horse's mouth means I got the information directly. I didn't get it from somebody else. Okay? The best way to improve your vocabulary is read, 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 read. Definitely. But you can also use thesaurus.com. Thesaurus.com is great for vocabulary. You can use etymonline.com. And you can also look up vocabulary by topic. So just search for any topic that you want to talk about, right? Like, let's talk about sports, okay? Now look up sports vocabulary. You can look up a list of words that are about sports. That way, when you study like that, you're more likely to remember because it's all related, okay? It's not random, okay? Bizarre, strange, weird, odd. What's the most common? Which do I prefer to use in speaking? Strange and weird are probably the most common, but all of them get used, and this is all completely up to you. If you like the word bizarre, then use that one, okay? Language is not just a popularity contest. Sometimes language is just about what you like. So if you like the word odd, then use the word odd. You don't have to say that's weird. You can say that's odd. That's fine. Okay? Literary license, we call that. Okay? You suppose I want to take out Mr. Beast? No, I don't really care about Mr. Beast. I don't really think about Mr. Beast. He never enters my mind. No, he's of no consequence. Am I into Charlize Theron movies? I mean, not specifically, no. I've seen a few of her movies that I thought were good, but I mean, I don't think that every movie she's in is great just because it's her. Can you use outlandish? Sure. Why not? Let me explain something to you. Some of this is about confidence. Okay, so when you say, can I use this word? Yeah, you can use whatever word you want to. It doesn't even matter if no one uses that word. If you want to use that word, you can. Language is not a popularity contest. Okay, so just because everybody else uses this word most of the time does not mean that you cannot use this word. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, but I want to fit in. I want to sound like a native. Sounding like a native means just owning your words. Own your words. If you want to say it that way, then you say it that way. Okay? I don't ask for permission to speak the way I do. Do you understand? So if I want to use the word, that's outlandish, that's outlandish. Outlandish means crazy, insane, not possible. That's crazy, it's ridiculous. It's outlandish. If you want to use that word, then use that word. Don't let somebody else tell you you can't. You shouldn't use that word because most people don't use that word. Who cares what most people do? That is not who I am. I am not a person who goes around wondering what most people do. I wonder what I want to do. Okay? So if you want to use outlandish, then use outlandish. Okay? You feel like your English vocabulary resets after skipping a day. It doesn't reset, but vocabulary is something that takes time. Vocabulary is something where you have to spend some time with those words. Let's put it this way, Becca. Let me put it to you this way, Becca. If I go to the Philippines and I am walking down the street and you are walking down the street and we walk by each other and I see you and you see me, but we don't say anything to each other, will you remember me for a long time? You don't know me. I'm just some guy. All right? No. If you just walk by me and see me and you don't say anything, you're not going to remember me, right? But if I stop and say hello and you stop and say hello, you'll remember me for a little bit, maybe an hour or two, right? And if I stop and say, hi, my name is Mark and I'm from America, nice to meet you, then you'll remember me for a week. And if we go out and have lunch together, then how long will you remember me for? A long time, right? So guess what, everybody? Just like people, words are like people. If you spend time with them, you'll remember them. If you don't spend time with them, you won't remember them. So if you want to remember the words, then you have to spend time with them. All right? Just like a friend. If you want to remember a person, you spend time with them. Okay? Do I have a fresh etymology word list ready right now? I don't have a fresh one, but I have a list that I have never finished teaching because it's big. I got pages right here. And I have many, many articles saved open online as well. Do I play chess? What kind of intellectual games do I like? I play chess. I have not played in many, many years, but when I was a boy, I played pretty often. We have a chess set in my house, and my family, we have always played chess. Everybody, my niece and my nephews, they play chess too now. But I haven't played it in a long time. What kind of intellectual games do I like? I like intellectual games about learning, anything that's about learning, so the truth is that I usually, for me, I don't often use games right away. It depends on what I'm studying. Sometimes the thing that I'm studying, you just need to read. You have to read. You can't play games to understand. You have to read, right? So if I'm studying philosophy, games is not really that helpful for philosophy, right? You have to read to understand philosophy, right? But if I want to learn a skill, like, for example, language, those are great, like vocabulary. There are many games to learn vocabulary that are really wonderful for that, right? But I don't do as much as I should. I don't do as much as I should. I like Jeopardy! Do you know Jeopardy! The game Jeopardy! It's a TV show. My mother is obsessed with that show, and she can answer all the questions. She's a genius at Jeopardy! I don't have a favorite word in English. But it's really important. What's really important? I don't know what's really important. You're so funny. Asking for my autograph. You can have my autograph. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just a drummer. Is it possible to learn two languages at the same time? It is, but is it possible for you? Like you could fly to New York City, or you could. Let's see. Wait, let me think. Where are you? You're in Egypt. Okay, so you're in Egypt, and if you live in Cairo, can you drive to Alexandria? Yeah, you could drive there, or you could fly there. That's another way to go to Alexandria, or you could walk there, right? Is it possible to walk from Egypt to Alexandria? Sure, it's possible, but is it a good idea? Just because something is possible doesn't mean it's a good idea. Wisdom, one of the most basic forms of wisdom is the simple idea. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. That's one of the most basic principles of wisdom. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do that thing. Okay, so just because you can learn two languages at the same time doesn't mean you should or that it's a good idea. Okay? Have I got something like Barzaletta? I don't know what that is. I have never heard of that before. Uh, no, no, no. Oh, yeah. Okay, so something like Barzaletta in America. Yeah, we have something like that. We start jokes. Well, then there are many jokes that start with a guy walks into the bar, a guy walks into a bar, and then blah blah blah. Right. So these stories will start out with this the topic of a guy walks into a bar, and then there's a story, something that'll happen that'll teach something and it'll make you laugh, right? So a guy walks into a bar with a piece of asphalt under his arm, right? Asphalt is like the stuff from the road, right? And he goes up to the bartender and he says, "I'll have a beer for myself and one for the road." One for the road means one to take with me. And he's talking about he's carrying the road with him. So he wants a beer for him and a beer for the road. That's like that. Or a man goes to the doctor, and the doctor, and he says to the doctor, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this, when I lift my arm." And the doctor looks at him and he says, "Well, don't do that. You know, just don't do that." Right? Or a priest, a minister, and a rabbi walk into a blood donation clinic. The nurse looks at them and says, "What's your blood type?" And the rabbi replies, "I'm probably type O." I don't even know what that means. Oh, rabbit, because it's rabbi. Oh, that's funny. But that one only works if you write it. That doesn't work. Never mind. That last one was not a good one. Yeah, so we have something similar to that. They're like a setup, a story setup that tells a lesson of some kind or a joke. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If some woman introduces herself that she's an outlandish person, what do you mean? Can I assume that she thinks of herself as a person who's fun and interesting? Yeah, if you said I'm an outlandish person, then that means you like to do wild things. You like to do crazy things. You're not afraid to try things that most people won't try. You're kind of ridiculous that way. Okay? Yeah, like an alien. Yeah. Am I able to do something strange, weird, odd, bizarre? Or am I modest to accept some weird challenge and accomplish it in a public place, for instance? I don't know what that means, Alexander. If you mean, am I easily embarrassed? No, I don't think I'm very easily embarrassed compared to most people. I don't care what most people think. It's hard to be embarrassed if you don't care what other people think. Why can entree mean both an appetizer and a main dish? So the word entree, today, it means the main dish, right? The meaning of today, the word entree, that means the main dish you're eating today. But the reason why it means the appetizer is because the original meaning of the word entree is a French word, and the original meaning of the word entree was appetizers. But over time, it changed. Now, I think there's a story about that, but let me check. So yeah, the word entree, originally it was from opera and ballet. The opening piece in an opera or a ballet was the entree. Entrez-vous, right? Come in, right? So it's the entrance, right? That's where we get the word entrance from, entree, right? So it's that the original meaning was talking about opera or ballet, the first piece in that. But then it changed in a little bit later, about 50 years later, they started using that term for cooking. And originally it was the dish that was right before the main course. It was the introductory dish before the main course. But okay, so the reason why is because a long time ago, dining was very complicated. If you were rich, right, dining was not just like eating, right? When you're poor, you have a bowl and you have a spoon and that's it. Maybe that's all you have. But the rich people, they don't have just one spoon. They have 3 spoons. This spoon is for this, and this spoon is for that, and this spoon is for this. The special things, only for special things, right? This fork is for this, and this knife is for this, and you have to put this here and this here, right? So, a long time ago, there were many courses to a meal, right? A 4-course dinner, a 5-course dinner. There were many, many stages to a meal, right? But then in the 20th century, they started simplifying that because it was too much. It was too many courses. It was just too complicated, right? And so if you're in Europe, or in Australia or England or France, the word entree still means the appetizer or the starter in those places. But in America, the word changed its meaning to become the main dish because they simplified the meal. They just took out a few courses. So now the entree became the main. Okay? Am I scrolling through Reddit? No. I occasionally will search for some kind of a source that looks like a good source. That's all. You always have stores with carabinieri. What is that? Oh, they're just jokes. Right, I see. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so it has been 1 hour and 35 minutes. So yeah, look at this. Like a long time ago, a 19th century French dinner had 15 courses. 15! Up to 15 courses. Can you imagine that? Having a dinner where they bring out 15 different things? That's too much. That's too much, right? So, yeah, they would have soup and hors d'oeuvres. Hors d'oeuvres means the little tiny things you eat. They would have a fish course. They would have the entree, which was maybe something like chicken or pate. They would have a roast, like a big roast chicken or beef or something like that. And they would have dessert, and then around World War I and the Great Depression, around the 1920s, right? That's when they, people were poor. In the 1920s in America, everybody was poor because the Great Depression happened in 1929, right? So the 1930s were very, very poor. Everybody was poor. If you're poor, you don't have a 15-course meal. You have a 1-course meal. You have a can of beans. That's it, right? So in the 19th century, the idea of a 15-course meal was completely ridiculous for most people in America because they were too poor. Okay? So the meal became simplified to a starter, a main, and a dessert. Okay? And the word main somehow became entree. It's kind of funny. Oh, Carabinieri is a sort of police in Italy that we joke with. Oh, I see. Interesting. Okay. Gotcha. Do they like to waste food? No. Well, yes and no. Think about it. When you're rich, do rich people think about waste? Yeah, right. No, that's right. They don't think about waste. So they'll have a 15-course meal, and yeah, maybe they don't eat all of it. They don't care. They don't care. Lucas, hello, Lucas. We've been talking about many, many, many things, Lucas. We've been talking about many, many, many things. You guess we're all out of questions. Well, yeah, that's okay too. It happens. All right. It has been about an hour and 39 minutes, and it seems like a little bit of a slow day today. A little bit of a slow day. That's okay. You can't be number one every day. So if there are no more questions, then I'm going to probably go. And I would like to play some music, but I don't have time because I do have a lot of work I have to do. It's hot today. It's very, very hot. Like right now, it is, what temperature is it? Oh, it's not too bad right now. That's why I got to get outside. It's 82 Fahrenheit, which is 28 Celsius. But it's going to get up later to 30, 31. So I want to cut the grass before it gets too hot. But if I have time, maybe I'll come play drums a little bit later. If I have time. Okay, let's see. As a teacher, which skills of language do I like to teach the most? I like etymology the most because that's like I'm a nerd, so I like that the history of words is very, very interesting to me. That's my favorite thing to teach. I give private lessons. I don't do group lessons anymore. I'm such a philosopher. Speak about how to be happy in life. What's the way to happiness? Man, I would love to know. I don't know. Marco, I do believe that ignorance is bliss. So yeah, the truth of the matter is that if you want to be happy, learn as little as you can. Learning is difficult because learning will challenge you. Learning will make you confront things. Learning will make you grow. And it will make you look at things that you didn't want to look at but now you have to because now you have the knowledge. So Tolstoy said something like that. What was the quote about that? Let me see. What did Tolstoy say about that? He said, nope, that's not the one I'm looking for. Not about that one. I can't remember the quote, but basically it's something to the effect of the more you know about the world, the more likely you're going to be depressed and sad. Because when you learn about the world, there are a lot of terrible things to learn about. And that takes courage to learn. It takes... You have to have... let me think, what's the right word? You have to be willing to be scared. That's it. You know, knowledge can be scary and learning can be hard, and that's scary, right? When you don't know things and you don't understand things, that's scary. So if you want to learn and you want to grow, then you have to be willing to be scared. You have to be willing to push yourself to that place where it feels uncomfortable. So, yeah. So how can you be happy in life? Do what makes your heart smile. Okay? Think about what makes your heart smile. Do those things. Okay? How can you have a balance in your life? Balance in life is not about balancing things the way you think it is. When I see people talking about balance, work-life balance, everybody's talking about the balance between work and life, but nobody is talking about whether that balance is correct in the first place. Maybe the problem is that we put too much emphasis on work and not enough emphasis on life. Work is supposed to facilitate life. If work doesn't facilitate life, it's slavery. You have to cut the grass too? Fun, right? I do enjoy the history of words, yes. We aren't wealthy, but last night our four families got together and stuffed ourselves to the brim with Khinkali and pizza. I don't know what Khinkali is, but that sounds fun. Valerie, but you know, in my experience, the best parties are always the poor parties, not the rich parties. I have been to the rich parties. You're not missing out. Trust me. The rich parties are boring as hell. Okay? I used to play in a wedding band, and I played for mostly rich families, rich weddings, right? So they would pay my band a lot of money to come play music at their wedding, right? And the rich parties, they're boring as hell. They're super boring. The food is not that good. If you want the best food and the best party, poor people have the best parties and the best food. Or I won't say poor people, but I'll say not the rich people. The rich people, they eat what they think is good, but they don't know what's good. They don't, not really. In my classes, do I focus on speaking practice, grammar, or Q&A? In my classes, I focus on what each student needs individually. So if you take lessons with me privately, then I will figure out what you need specifically for you. Maybe you need more work on vocabulary, or more work on grammar, or more work on pronunciation, or more work on writing or speaking. Whatever it is that my student needs, that's what they will get from me. So when you get private lessons with me, they're always different. Every single person gets a different experience because every person requires something different from me. Okay, so a teacher is supposed to cater what they do to the student in some way, right? Like, I have to think about, what does this student need? Not just give them what I have. Okay? All right. I knew the answer, but come on, how could anyone stay ignorant on purpose? It's easier than you think. It's easier than you think. Ignorance is not difficult. Knowledge is difficult. Ignorance is easy. When you're tired of languages, you can just do something else? Sure. Yeah, I have many other things I'm interested in. Not just language. How can you know which meaning of the word is most common? Well, sometimes you can just ask. Today, right, you can look and say which one is most common. Just ask ChatGPT. Of these very, maybe you're talking about the, choose a word and then just ask ChatGPT, which is the most popular, or the most commonly used definitions of this term. Which are the most common? Okay. You need to choose. I think you mean I need to choose one: money or happiness? Happiness, guys. I'm sorry, but the money thing, money is only worth what you think it's worth. What happens if all the money is worth nothing tomorrow and you have a lot of it? Means nothing. Just because you think it has value doesn't mean it does. So if money is a construct and happiness is also a construct, it means something that we create. We think about it. Money only has value because we give it value, right? A piece of paper is just a piece of paper. That's what money is. But we give it value. So that's a constructed value. We built it and created it in our mind. So the value it has is only the value that we give it, right? The same thing is true with happiness. Happiness is something that you create. If it's valuable to you, then that's the value that you give it, right? You're studying English at university to be an English teacher. Well, then keep working on it, Lucas. Keep working on it. Maybe you do less work and have lots of free time, and that's good work balance. So I think that part of the problem with work-life balance is maybe you should have thought about that before, and maybe that's why you shouldn't do a job that you don't like. Maybe. I know this is a crazy idea, but maybe people should try to do work that they feel good about. People should try to do work that they like. That's a crazy idea. Wow. You don't have to think about work-life balance if you like your work. Wow, what an idea, right? You want to play a chess game on chess.com? I might be up for that sometime, Alexander. You think there's a significant price gap between so-called eco-friendly products and regular ones. I think this is a... It's a what? Have I heard of Elon Musk's words to French judges? He used an absurd paragon to insult them. Do I think it would be happy because he's ignorant? So... I haven't followed all of that, but I did follow some of it, and it was hilarious. It was so funny to hear him say things like, "That's not a fair question. I can't believe you're asking me these unfair questions." It's like the guy has never, ever thought about law or seen a court case before. Has he never seen Law and Order? You know, I mean, what planet did this guy come from? Really? So, yeah, and I heard that the judges shut him down hard. I heard the judges told him to shut up. I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have seen that. Ooh, that's a good one. Happiness is your current situation minus expectations. Yeah, we have a similar phrase for that. What do we say? Oh, I can't remember now. Shoot. We say comparison is the thief of joy. It's similar. What that means is if you're doing something, just enjoy it the way it is. And don't try to compare it to other people or other things or other ways that people have done it before. Because when you compare something to somebody else, sometimes that's the thing that ruins it for you. You're comparing yourself and now it's not fun anymore. So comparison is the thief of joy. Okay, how to improve your memory when it comes to vocabulary. Read my article about vocabulary. Here is my article. This is my article about vocabulary. Read it. Okay? Why is nobody on the stage? Because I didn't invite anybody on the stage. Just because I'm here, I have to talk to somebody? You think this is a manufactured issue? That you're talking about the eco-friendly thing? It might be a manufactured issue. I don't really have any thoughts on it. I've never really thought about it before, Valeri. What do you think about native speakers in voice rooms trying to correct people like grammar police, but they don't speak any language as a second one? Yeah, that's a pain in the ass, Lucas. Yeah, that's annoying as hell. Well, first of all, Lucas, you shouldn't go to just some voice room with some person, okay? Because just because you're a native doesn't mean that you actually know what you're talking about when it comes to language. All right? So I'm a teacher. So I do know, and I have to know. It's my responsibility to know. But the average person, they don't. They learned grammar and they learned language in school a long time ago. And maybe they didn't even pay attention very well when they did learn. So for most people, when they learn language, it's something that you learn in order to use it, but you never try to perfect it. You only try to use it functionally. So your language is as useful as you need it to be, and most people only need it to be very, very simple. right? So most people live in a very simplistic language world, right? A simplified language world. And yeah, there are lots of native speakers here that will correct you. And yeah, they don't know another language, and that's kind of weak. Especially when they come at it with if they're very, very arrogant about it. If they're very arrogant about it, then it's really annoying. Yeah, Americans are terrible about that, in my opinion. More Americans should learn another language. Okay, guess what, guys? When you learn another language, did you know this? Learning another language is an act of empathy. When you learn another language, when you learn any language, just a first language, when you learn a first language, somebody tells you apple. And now you know that this thing that they're holding is an apple. So you have to imagine, you're using empathy to think about what they're telling you, right? It's empathetic. You have to imagine what they're saying. That's part of empathy, is imagining what they're doing, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. That's empathy, right? So learning a language, when you learn the way someone else speaks, it's an act of empathy, and it's an act that makes you understand the way those people are better. Okay? So learning a language is a really wonderful way to understand people. Okay. Have I ever seen the TikTok CEO at the hearing? The judge asked some rather silly questions. No, I didn't see any of that. I haven't seen any of that. So I'm not sure what silly questions that you're referring to. But, you know, sometimes judges and lawyers, they have to ask the silly questions because that's what a judge is supposed to do. A judge needs to think about not just the most basic way that this could be applied. A judge has to think about the most crazy possible ways that this thing could be used, right? So when you're a judge, you have to think outside the box. And that means you have to ask them some questions about some hypothetical possibilities that might be very rare, but possible. And we don't decide things based on only the most common result. We decide things based on not only the most common result, but also the outlying results, the ones that happen just a little bit, right? Like, for instance, in the 1970s, there was a car in America, the Pinto, and this car was made by Ford, and this car had a gas tank in the back. And if you hit them in the back of the car, the gas tank would explode, right? So most people who drove the Pinto, they didn't have a problem because most people were not in an accident, so most people were safe. So for most people who drove the Pinto, it was a safe car. So should we say, oh, it's safe because most people thought it was safe? No. We look at the outliers. We look at the people who were hurt. Right? We have to consider them, not just the people who weren't hurt, right? So that's the way judges often have to think. A judge has to think about a situation that might be very rare, but might be possible. And so it has to be talked about. Okay. Yasmin, nothing will open here if you just click on it. You have to copy it and paste it into your browser and then open it. Okay? Do I consider the difference between so-called eco products and ordinary ones to be contrived? Not mostly, no. I think that most of the products that have eco-friendly things, usually they are for good reason. However, in capitalism, anytime you have a mechanism for sales, somebody is going to manipulate that mechanism. So, sure, there are some people who they'll say, well, we could make a normal product or we could make the eco one. And if we make the eco one, we can charge $10 more, right? So they will contrive many things to try to come up with reasons why this should be eco so they can charge more money, right? But that doesn't mean that every eco product is a scam. That means that everything in capitalism, eventually they take it and it might be used usually as a good thing, right? Like, oh, well, this is popular, so we should sell it, right? But sometimes it's just a marketing tool that's used to make money, right? So it's a green product. Now they can say it's green and they can charge more money. Okay, that doesn't mean they're all a scam. That means that capitalism does have one big flaw, which is that it doesn't care about honesty. Capitalism doesn't care about honesty. It never has. Capitalism has lied and lied and lied over and over again. You know, they used to say that smoking cigarettes was not a health problem. They said that they were healthy for you. So, you know, yeah, long story short is no, eco products are real. They're not all a scam, but many companies have used the concept of eco things to scam and make more money. Okay? All right, I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but please be patient. Nowadays, Apple has another meaning for kids. I know, right? Funny. Have I ever pushed myself to study or practice from morning till night for several days straight? Sure. Yeah, when I was younger. Yeah, a lot. I met an American a long time ago. I asked him if he was learning another language. He said he didn't need to. When I asked him, yeah, he said he doesn't need to. So, Rena, you're right. Why don't most Americans learn another language? There are a few reasons. One, yes, English is kind of the dominant language in the world right now. So, it makes you lazy. You don't have to. If you know English, that's the big one, right? So you're good, right? There's one reason. But there is another reason. The other reason is just proximity. Okay? So if you live in Germany, how many other countries are around you that speak other languages? If you live in Switzerland, how many other countries are around you that speak other languages? But if you live in America, we have Canada, which they speak pretty much the same way we do. And we have Mexico, which is Spanish. And Spanish is a very, very, very popular language in the United States. There are many, many Spanish speakers here. Okay? But there isn't a great need to learn another language if you live in the United States because of proximity. Unless you have business in other countries, then what's the point? Right? So yes, for many Americans, it's just because there's no need here. Unfortunately, too many Americans don't understand the basic value of learning another language. They really don't. It's really sad. Okay. What a mess started by Fender. What? Fender? Fender started a mess? What did they do? Anyway. Toyota Prius is the biggest scam? Why is that a scam? I don't know why that's a scam. Ah, see now, Rena, that, if you say, oh, I don't feel attracted to him anymore, that means that you are at least somewhat of a sapiosexual. Sapiosexual means that you're attracted to somebody who has a mind. You're attracted to somebody who's a thinker, right? And when somebody says something like that, oh, I don't need to learn a language because I don't need to. Yeah, it's kind of like, man, that is... Ugh. I don't want to talk to you anymore. What you just said was so arrogant and ignorant that I can't even look at you. Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. Like, a girl can be the most beautiful girl in the world, but if she says something really ignorant, I can't even be interested. Fender decided to sue each and every guitar manufacturer who made Strats. Well, okay, but come on. They were the first one who made that guitar shape, that entire shape. The electric guitar is an American instrument. It was created here. There are two instruments that were created in the United States specifically. Well, actually, three. The synthesizer, the drums, and the electric guitar. Drum set, I mean. Yeah. And the Strat, man, that's the most classic guitar of all time. So they have a right to sue when somebody is stealing their copy, their product, you know? I'm not a big fan of big companies like that, but you know, come on, man, that's Fender. They stole their design. It's not like it's a sandwich, right? So there are some things that you can't copyright because they're so basic. You can't copyright something if it's so basic that anybody would think of it, right? Anybody could think of this idea, so you can't copyright that, right? But this is not that. This is a very specific shape. This is a very specific design. There are many things that are specific that make it a Strat, right? And even more funny, it's not like the Fender Stratocasters, they're not that expensive. If you just want a basic one, they're not that expensive to begin with. So the fact that you would go to a copy company is kind of weird, because if you just save up your money, you can get the real thing. Yeah. So anyway. Okay, guys, guess what? I need to go. It's been 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's time for me to go. Time for me to go. And I don't have time to play drums, so maybe later, okay? No, the Indian accent does not suck, okay? No accent sucks, okay? Your accent only sucks if people can't understand you, okay? But I like every accent in the world. I love them all, as long as they are clear. You just have to make them clear. That's all, okay? All right, you're welcome, Lucas. Thank you, Rena. You're welcome. Have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening to all of you, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. Bye, Esther.